you doing, Mark?
Good. Good. I miss you when you won't go away.
Call the meeting to order. We have an invocation.
Let us pray. God of hope, we thank you for the inclusiveness of your divine action on behalf of creation. Encourage our leaders to carefully consider all people as they make decisions that generate positive actions for everyone in this community and our neighboring towns. God of all, with wonderful diversity of languages and cultures, you created all people in your image. Free us from prejudice and fear, that we may see your face in the faces of people we witness in the workplace or on the street. God of compassion, whose Son became poor for our sake, help us to see the face of Christ in those who are poor, and in serving them to serve you. Give us generous hearts so that those living in poverty may have adequate food, clothing, and shelter. By your Spirit, move us to affirm the dignity of all people and to work for just laws that protect the most vulnerable in society. Gracious God, bless our Kansas cities, especially Concordia, and make them places of safety for all people, rich and poor. Give us grace to work for cities where neighborhoods remain vibrant and whole, where the lost and forgotten in society are supported, and where arts flourish. Make the diverse fabric of the city a delight to all who live and visit here, and a strong bond uniting people around common goals for the good of all. Through Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord. Amen.
Thank you. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any changes? Thank you. Start off the approval of the special meeting that was held on July 16th, 2018.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 16th, 2018 special meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Mark, a second by Christie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Passed. Now for the meeting on July 18th, 2018.
Move to approve the minutes of the July 18th, 2018 meeting.
I have a motion by Chuck. Do I have a second? I have a second from Keaton. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. For the special meeting held on July 24th, 2018.
Move to approve the minutes of the July 24th, 2018 meetings.
I have a motion by Chuck. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Keaton. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to financial matters appropriation ordinance number 14.
I make a motion to approve appropriation ordinance number 14.
I have a motion from Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Christie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public comments.
Hi, my name is Jen Workington, and I am here actually representing K-State Extension Office, the First Christian Church and Care Portal. I also work for the 12th Judicial District. We are here a little bit late. I understand you guys have already had conversations with other groups, but this is in regards to a program that we're looking to start here in Concordia called Strengthening Families Program 10 to 14. That represents the age group that we target primarily. What this is a program that offers those youth that are at risk and parents that are struggling to maintain their children in their home, get children back in their home, or there's just a lot of struggles, whether it's with law enforcement, courts, variety of agencies that we work with in town. Offering parenting classes for them and youth classes where they have the opportunity to go through, get some help with their parenting skills, and hopefully strengthen that family bond so we can avoid some of the issues that come with all these families that are struggling. The funding that we're looking for would help to provide the meal. So part of the program is when we first come together, we sit down family style. It's an opportunity for the families to sit with the facilitators and the volunteers to sit, have a family, maybe something that they've never done before, plus the struggles that we have with food shortages in our community. So it's an opportunity for this 7-week program to provide meals for these families that we meet with. Once we have the meal, that we then break out. The children and the parents have classes, and then we come back together and do classes together. At the end of the 7 weeks, if they've completed successfully and they've met the requirement for attendance, they get certificate of completions, which can go towards helping them with things that they need for the court process or for St. Francis or DCF. So that is why I'm here tonight, to keep it short. Do you have questions? I left some brochures that kind of go over a little bit more. It is an evidence-based program that's been around for a long time, started in Iowa, has grown here. There's been a lot of research, of course, done because it's evidence-based. Really shows that it has helped to impact youth with deviant behaviors, to decrease those behaviors we see in our communities, decrease drug and alcohol use that we see is continually an issue we have in our communities, and then to improve parent-child relationships. Which a lot of times that strain is a really difficult circumstance for our communities to deal with financially, because then we have families being broken apart, having to implement services and things. So it really aims to target to help all of those areas to help improve that.
Thank
Are
you.
families referred to your program?
So the families can be referred a variety of ways, whether it's a court referral, St. Francis referral. Some of them are coming from local churches that maybe pastors are doing work with the families and they need a little bit more, so they'll be able to refer them. We're kind of open to a lot of referral sources. We want to work with as many places as we can in the community so that we can really tackle and get a good grasp of everybody that's coming through. Okay,
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
thank you.
Thank you
I
so
appreciate
much.
your time.
Any other public comments? If not, we'll move on to old business, City Hall AVAC unit replacement.
Mayor and Commissioners, last time we met, we talked about replacement of the HVAC unit here at City Hall. This is the unit that serves the office area. The area that serves the lobby and the commission room is still intact. The area that serves the firehouse is still intact. Last week we looked at 2 separate proposals, and the recommendation was to go with Calabrese for their base bid, and then we asked you to take a look at the different warranties. We got into some discussion and decided to table it. I took a look at the information the following week, and based on my experience with working with bid laws and review of proposals and quotes, been doing it for about the last 10 years or so, had some clarification questions for each one of the vendors, which I did call each one of them and visit with each one of them about those questions. Decided to put this together for you in a format that would show those side by side, the information that we use, the criteria that we use to evaluate those bids. So what we have, again, is the 2 same bids that were before you in the packet. At the time of the bid letting, Hood had provided another proposal for another type of unit that was more efficient and more expensive. But we took that one aside because it was not quite an apples-to-apples comparison of the unit that was proposed by Calabrese. So we took the apples-to-apples comparison, knowing that we wanted to keep our costs low. So that was the reason for it. We took a look first at the process that was used. And as I stated in some communication to you and to both of the vendors earlier this week or late last week, sometimes we tend to use the words quote, proposal, and bid interchangeably. When talking with a public entity, they do have some distinct meanings. So as clarity, proposals are usually what we request when we don't know exactly what we want. We have some basic information, but we give the vendors some latitude to give us some feedback. A quote process is we know pretty much what we want, but we're doing an informal process, and we don't have firm times, firm dates, firm specifications, firm anything. The process used here, we did an advertisement of specific time frame that we wanted information back. We gave specific information to vendors that we wanted them to provide back. We had a specific time for the bid opening, and we got very comparable proposals within that criteria. So that most closely resembles a bid process or a formal bid process. So we then look to guidance with the Kansas state bid laws and what they require us to do. And one of the things that they require us to do is to accept the lowest responsible bidder. So I typically look at the word responsible first. We have bids from 2 vendors that are both deemed responsible. We don't have any experience that tells us otherwise. They're good companies, they provide good products here in town, they serve us well. So we keep both of those in there. Then we look at the low, or I guess then we look to see if they meet specifications. There was some question last time as to whether Calabrese met specifications, because on the information that they provided, they indicated that they were going to use the used disconnect and not provide a new one. We know that based on the dollar value of that equipment in comparison to the whole project, it's relatively small. Also, based on my past experience, what I've done is use that as a point of clarification. If the low bidder has missed something, I'll call them up and say, would you honor your bid and amend this to meet the specifications? And if they say yes, we're fine. If they say no, then we usually kick them out and move to the next low. In this case, Bruce Brown, he did indicate during that meeting last time that he would honor that. Bruno did ask that question, so he indicated he would honor the bid with a new disconnect, and so that's fine. So we kept that bid in there. Had we had 5 or 10 separate bids, we might have used that as a criteria to eliminate one of them to do a better evaluation. Since we only have 2 here, we want to try to keep them both in and both as competitive as possible. So then we look to see who's the low bidder. And this is where it can get kind of tricky and kind of messy too. The way that I evaluated this, I looked at it as the replacement unit itself as a base bid, similar to if you were going to bid out building a house. And the warranties, the 5-year and 10-year warranties, maybe your add alternates as if you were going to add a driveway or a garage next to them. So in a bid process, what we'll do is we'll open them up and the bidders will give us information on that base bid plus the add alternates, which is exactly what happened here. We asked for information from them to replace that rooftop unit, and then what would the warranty cost and what would it cover. In our experience, what we do is we take a look at that and we say, is it in our best interest to go ahead and accept the add alternate at that time? Did the prices and the information come in good enough that I want to go ahead with that driveway at the same time I'm building the house, or do I want to build it later? That's the question. In this case, after looking at the warranties, it's probably in the city's best interest, we feel, to go with the 5-year warranty. That seems to be the best value package that would protect the city, provide an insurance coverage, if you will, for if some of those parts would fail within the first 5 years. Pretty inexpensive insurance package. I did do some follow-up questioning as well and found out that if we had to buy any of these parts outright, they would range anywhere from $200 to $2,000 a piece. So what that means is that for $275, we're getting the protection of any of those parts for the next 5 years. That's a pretty good deal in my opinion. So if we look at the 5-year warranty, that's base bid of rooftop unit plus add alternate of warranty 1. You add those 2 prices together, and then you determine your low bid. So does that make sense to everybody, the logic following that? Or we decided that it's best to go ahead and add the driveway at the same time that we're building the house, so we're going to add those together and then decide who the low bidder is. So that's where we came up with the low bid being Hood, and the recommendation looking there. One of the pieces that we also took a look at, deciding that we should go ahead with a warranty package, that's in the best interest of the city. We evaluated those warranties and we realized they only cover parts. Well, there's 2 segments to a warranty. There's the parts side and then there's the labor side. We have to consider that. It's great that we're going to be covered for parts and we don't have to pay for parts outright because we've already bought this insurance policy. But what's the cash out of pocket going to be? So I did follow up and I did ask for the service labor rate from both companies, and the rates that they provided are here. This information, I think, is important for us to understand, because as we can see, there's a $10 an hour difference between this information, and that is significant. If we have to bring somebody out for 4 hours worth of work, for example, one person, that's an additional $40. We've just been through some of our budget study sessions. We know that money is tight, so we want to make sure we're getting the best value. So in my mind, considering that service labor rate is another component to the warranties, and it should have some consideration and some weight. So again, I lean back toward the Hood proposal. So staff recommendation at this point in time is to approve the proposal from Hood Heating and Air with the 5-year warranty in the total amount of $9,563.49 from the CIP fund. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Amy, does labor start immediately if something would happen, say the first month or 2 months, or is there a time that labor is free?
In the clarification conversations with both companies, I did learn that both companies provide free labor for the first year of warranty service.
Okay.
And that was something that neither included in their bid information.
Okay, my other question goes to our city attorney. Sir, is it customary, or does the city have to, when they're putting bids out, is it the law that, or the city ordinance, one of the two, that we accept the base bid and then the alternatives are ourselves, or do we have the leeway of putting, like the warranties, include that and other things, and put those up and match, and then take the lowest? Is it just the base bid, or can we do as we did here?
Well, what we're doing here is not, it's not illegal. We're not breaking the law. You know, a lot of the times, and I think maybe Amy would agree, you know, if there are these ad alternates that we want to look at, a lot of times it's probably best to request that in the specific bid, you know, the specifications we put out. Is that?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. No.
However, you know, what we have to do and what we have to look at here, first off, I will say, Amy knows a lot about this stuff. We've sat down and talked. We've had phone calls, emails. She's done her homework. You know, she lays out all of this stuff, and I make sure it's legal. And you know, she's done awesome. Actually, she knows far more than people who. I've had a couple people purported to be experts on bidding. They wouldn't give me this much. What we're looking at here is, you know, the process that we've gone through. While it may have some bumps, we had some, you know, things that maybe we would have liked to have gone differently. Everything was, you know, there was a level playing field. It's not as if we ask somebody else. It's not as if we ask one person, hey, what's your warranty? And never ask anybody else what theirs was. So, you know, it's unbiased. Some people would, you know, argue maybe that a warranty is not an ad alternate. I believe that it is. It's something that we're adding on that is going to be something that we add on to this contract. It's going to be a performance at some point in time. It's like adding a driveway, whatever. You know, this warranty is something we're adding on here. It's going to be work. It's nearly guaranteed we're going to probably have to use at some point in time. These things break. They cost money. So with the process that we've done, no, it's not illegal.
Okay.
So from a legal standpoint, you know, we're okay. You know, what we have to do is present to you what we see. You know, you guys make that decision. Due diligence has been done on our side of the table here. You know, looked very closely. These bids are close. So you know, we're not necessarily tied to take the absolute lowest bid all the time, because you know there's other things that go into it if you can show that there's reasons to take even a higher bid. But you know, it's close, but there's nothing illegal has gone on. There's been nothing nefarious.
So the process that we did is acceptable and legal.
It's legal. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
The closeness I might point out is 0.8%. I mean, I don't know how much closer you get. I mean, I guess you get 0.7%, that'd be closer. So I have to defer to the recommendations by people who are a lot smarter about heating and air units than I am. I've had very good service through Calabrese. I've had very good service through Hoods. I believe they're both very reputable organizations. So I don't feel like I have a significantly compelling reason to go against staff recommendation. But I hope that I think there's a lot of opportunity, not just within this, but to be able to improve our overall process, as you said, by splitting out being a lot more purposeful in the bid, the quote, the proposal process might help prevent some kind of confusion moving forward from different vendors.
You know, one thing I might point out is, you know, as we do business with our local businesses, that maybe, you know, when you're talking within $77, somewhere in that range, a very minimal amount, to actually, you know, we just done a bunch with Hoods. Maybe we could sway over and spend a little here with them. That way, we're dispersing our funds throughout our city and showing everybody the respect. You know, they pay it just as well as anybody else does. That maybe we should look into that as well. When you're talking minimal amounts, you know, we'd have to, you know, use discretion on our minimal amounts, but you know, maybe it'd be something to look into. I think it would help, you know, build relationships with everybody through town.
And we do. I think in the past, the city has had a contract with just one vendor. We no longer have that contract. We haven't had that in several years. So between us and the police department and several other buildings that we have, we do use a variety of contractors
Good.
throughout the city,
Good.
so, yeah.
Any further discussion on it? Well, I thank you, and like Chuck said, I mean, these are two great companies. And the fact is, you know, my hat's off to the commissioners, but the fact is, we're kind of changing the way we're looking at things and looking at the whole picture. And I think that's looking at the taxpayers' money. And unfortunately, on things like this, we can only go with one. And
Imagine they'd let us go with both.
well, they, maybe half and half. But I mean, but I think it's important that, you know, what we're doing is in accordance to the law. And I think it's something that the process that we need to continue along that lines and not just keep going back and forth. And I think with this commission and our city manager and our staff now, I think that's going to continue.
Well, I think with some discretion, I should point out, I mean, our city is not required to adhere to the bid laws like schools are. We have some latitude, and that's why we can use those proposals, quotes, and bids. But I think our staff does a good job of knowing which items fit which scenarios. So as an example, we'll be bringing to you some quotes or proposals next time because we don't know exactly what we want with the server meltdown that I'll talk about in manager's report. But this one was very clear and concise, and so it was easy to follow the bid process on this one. So just know that not everything is going to follow this lowest responsible bid or bid laws, but there are going to be some things where we have to do it. Regardless of what we do, staff is committed to finding the best value to meet city needs and to be good stewards of taxpayer money.
I think we totally understand that, and I guess I can say that the commissioners will probably keep asking the same questions because I think that's something that we're taking very seriously these days, and especially with the reports that come out with the average wage of Cloud County and everything else, and we have to be very cautious in how we spend our money for the city.
I appreciate the time you spent to go back through this and put all this together, and this is a good format, and I like that. Based on Amy's recommendation, I'd move to approve the purchase of the HVAC unit from Hood's Heating and Air for $9,288.49 plus the 5-year extended warranty for $275.
I have a motion from Mark. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
I have a second from Christie. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And again, I want to thank both people for coming to us and putting in the bids because you're both great companies. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business, setting the 2019 budget public hearing and approval publication.
I'm just going to give a quick recap of everything we've been discussing. We're going to publish a budget that stays at 57 mills, same as last year. And within the budget, we have a 2.1% cost of living adjustment, which is equal to the CPI for the average CPI for all of 2017. We've maintained our step increases, which is our longevity pay increases. We decided to share the 8% health insurance increase 50-50 with the employees. City rates went up 50% of the cost, and as did employee rates. Transfers to capital improvement projects remained the same as 2018. We cut transfers to equipment reserve by 42%, which is about $80,000. We cut our general fund reserve in total by approximately $57,000. And we maintained our operational cuts in each department at about the same levels as we were using in 2017. So several cuts, but we were able to maintain the same bottom dollar, so. I guess if we're okay with the way everything looks, the one thing I will say that I had wrong in here, at the top it says August 1st. It would be August 14th or August 15th for the public hearing, so I will change that before we publish it, but as long as, if you would just direct me to publish it, I'll do that probably Friday.
You are so direct.
So be it. Thank you. Thank you for all your work on that. Appreciate it. Moving on to ordinances, 2018-3142, solicitors licensing.
This is basically the same ordinance that you saw last time that had failed due to us needing to change a few things. And most notably was section 11.612, which had exceptions for who we can allow. And that was not covered last time. This will cover children setting up lemonade stands and things like, I think we talked about Schwann's and maybe Snap-on tools and some of those kind of things where they come regularly. And I think that that's covered everything that you were wanting it to cover. I pretty much took it word for word from Clay Center. And
They cover people campaigning.
We don't want those here.
Neither do I.
I think that anybody campaigning is exempted from these kind of ordinances anyway, if I
I would
remember
imagine
right.
politicians are pretty purposeful.
Yeah,
about
that's too bad. We gotta change that ordinance.
So, I don't know if you have any questions or if that was covered the way you had hoped to see it.
The licensing fees, are those fairly consistent with those of other comparable cities?
It's kind of all over the board. Some have them for $25. I believe Clay Centers is $1,000.
Oh,
This was kind of a middle of the road. I think Garden Cities is $2 or $2.50. So, yeah, most of them were higher. Nothing. I never found anything else that was $1,000, but most of them were not real low, and they're kind of in the same boat. You know, you want to make sure people come and get this, and maybe keep out somebody who's maybe taking advantage of our citizens.
Stacy, on 11.615, prohibited hours, I'm reading that and it's not making sense to me.
Oh, yeah, I got that from several other ones.
The 1/2 hour.
I wonder if that should say or 9 p.m.
Yeah, whichever happens first, what it,
Yeah.
So
essentially,
no later than 9.
I think what that does is it covers your daylight savings kind of thing, where it might be lighter outside.
Mhm.
So,
So it might say or.
Or we could just say 9.
I think you could say a half hour before sunset or 9 p.m., whichever is earlier.
Mhm.
I think that's what you're
Yeah.
trying
Right.
to achieve, is
Yeah.
limiting the hours to the greatest extent.
Yeah, because it's going to be, I don't want to have to figure out what sunset is if someone is possibly violating it, but
Well, you could go the official published sunset.
yes.
That
I'd
way
love to
people
argue
can't
that.
say I can still see the sun.
Yes. Definitely, that doesn't make a lot of sense the way that is.
We hadn't said that. June 21st solicitors would be
But regardless, I don't think anyone wants anyone at their house after 9 o'clock.
good. Yeah.
I saw a few that said 8. But 9 seemed to be pretty much
Or
the
anytime.
majority.
I personally would be fine with 8 o'clock. I don't really know of any reason why solicitation would be on at 8 o'clock. But however we want to make it work, I just think we could say before sunset or X time whichever is earlier, whatever would be most appropriate.
And we could definitely change that to say 8 too, if that's what you prefer.
I like the 8.
If that's what Chuck wants.
Except no one,
Shalon had it.
That's what I think so. Easy fit,
So with that then, I would move to approve ordinance 2018-3142 with a minor modification as discussed.
I have a motion by Chuck, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by a bunch of people. Do I have any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, 2018-3143, Sunday alcohol and CMB sales.
We began a discussion earlier this winter about a possibility of opening up sales of CMB and alcohol in Concordia on Sundays. Back in February, we've had a study session on it, and then we decided to table action until August. And the reason for that is that gives the commission the most flexibility, and again, trying to save money for the taxpayers. If the commission decides tonight to allow alcohol and CMB sales in Concordia on Sundays, it initiates a 60-day protest period. During that protest period, if there's a petition signed by 99 citizens of Concordia, which is equal to a certain percentage of citizens registered to vote in Concordia who also voted in the 2016 presidential election, if that's turned into the county clerk's office before the end of the 60 days, this item will be placed on the ballot on the general election in November for a vote. So the reason that we waited until now is because we can hit that 60-day time frame within the vote. But if the 60-day time frame protest period fell outside of the general election, we would have had to pay about $3,500 to add it to a vote if somebody did the petition. So that's the reason for the long delay between last spring and now. As you'll see in the memo, there was a lot of reference back to city code, reference back to statutes. Basically what that says is the city commission has the authority to do this, and it's up to you to decide. If you decide to allow it, it goes for CMB and alcohol, and if you so choose, then that protest period goes into effect. If you choose not to allow it, the effect on that is that it's denied, and that's the end of the story, except that there is no limit for any retailer to come to you at a later date and ask again, and then we start the process all over again. The sale would still be restricted, could only be sold, let's see, if the commission choose to allow the sale of CMB on Sunday, it could only occur on Sunday between noon and 8 p.m. Sale on Easter, Thanksgiving Day, and Christmas Day remains prohibited, but sales would still be allowed on Memorial Day, Independence, and Labor Day, which typically don't fall on Sundays. And it would be allowed by all retail businesses licensed to do so within the city limits of Concordia. So it's only for Concordia proper. It's not for outlying towns in the county. We have had that question. And we have had the question of whether those not licensed could sell, and the answer is no. You have to still have the same licenses as regular. Nothing else would change. So tonight we would ask for the commission to take action either way, and so that we can proceed and have an answer and know how to proceed from there. Are there any questions?
No. I guess I kind of look at it as revenue, and especially during the summer. I mean, we see the boats stopping at the short stops and the Walmarts and the whole thing, and if they can't buy beer, they just move on down and go to Belleville and put the money in there. And I know during our last conversations, the liquor stores prefer not to be open on Sunday. And I guess I still look at that as two different products, because liquor won't be able to be sold at the short stops or at Walmart unless they go in and get a liquor license, which I assume they probably could. But the fact is, I just kind of, and maybe I'm selfish, but I'm just kind of looking at it as an opportunity to help revenue for the city, and Lord knows we need it. And I guess what I like about this is, even though if I support it and if other members of the commission support it, the fact is the public does have a chance to come back and get a petition against it and have it on the ballot in November, and then make their say. And and that's great. I think that's a good opportunity. But if they really don't care, and then I would hate to pass up the opportunity of additional income for the city. And that's my feelings on it.
And if anybody has any questions about what that might project, there really isn't any way for us to tell if that would really increase sales tax or if it would harm the sales at the retail, at the liquor stores if they choose not to be open. There's really not any way for us to calculate that, so I don't have any information there for you, and I apologize for that. That's makes it harder decision.
I read an article recently, and I wish I would have tabbed it. It was in between sessions, and I just got wrapped up, and then I lost the tab. It was written by someone that was originally supportive of this idea. It was a person who owned a liquor store, and they were originally a champion of the idea. And at this point, at the point of writing the article, it kind of was saying that it hadn't ended up being as beneficial as they thought with the increase in sales, which was really negligible, and the increase in costs. They ended up losing money on it. So I can absolutely appreciate, from a business owner's perspective, not wanting this to go forward. I'm not a huge fan of what I call legislating morality, and I think I've said that a number of times before. So I don't like legally restricting people's rights to do things that they want to do. I think that there's a good opportunity to capture some sales tax and liquor tax. I mean, there's a portion of those sales that go to funding our recreation wellness programs through the state. So there's the sales tax. There's also alcohol tax that comes back to us. Those are revenue streams. I don't like shutting down a revenue stream. I'm really on the fence with this. What I like most about approving this is that it would push it. It would give the opportunity for it to be a public ballot with enough protest votes, and I think that's something that I think we can sit here and decide what we want. But I think it's really, if the public wants it, then they'll support it. If they don't, they won't. And I think that's would be some good input to receive.
I guess my opinion is, things are going to change in April of next year anyway. We don't know. I guess the revenue that we're talking about possibly gaining would be revenues that if somebody goes on to Belleville and buys it on a Sunday or whatever, and we don't, like I said, we don't have a way of capturing that, and we don't know what it is going to be. From a moral standpoint, I don't have any problems people buying, on Sundays. But I look at whichever way, it's going to change in April, which is going to involve changes for both liquor store owners and for the Quick Trip or what type places, mini marts and other places. It's going to change. So everybody's got a big change coming in April. I agree with the part of if it goes to a ballot, that's probably a good thing, but I'm really not sold on making a change now, is my opinion.
Any further discussion?
I guess I kind of see things the way you do, Sam. I think that it's an opportunity to capture some of that revenue, and for that reason, we should go ahead and approve it. So I move to approve ordinance 2018-3143.
I have a motion by Christie. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Keegan. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Up next, the manager's report.
Earlier in July, we had our budget hearings, and one of the things that we discussed was some potential projects and how we were going to fund those projects. And a couple of them we tossed around were ideas on how to use the remainder of the TIF money. That TIF district expires here in 2020. Knowing that having that TIF money is a result of other taxing entities sacrificing a little bit to be able to better the whole, community. I have invited the county, the school district, and Cloud County Community College to gather together so that we can talk about those potential projects and how that would use the money to make sure that they are on board with the direction that we're headed. Understanding still that the way the TIF district was set up, the city commission has ultimate authority over to whether that is approved or not. So just wanted to let you know that we have requested that meeting. We don't have a time scheduled yet, but that will be happening in the near future. Also, last Friday, we experienced a server failure. So our server that houses a lot of our data did go ahead and kick the bucket, I guess, so to speak. It's not repairable. Most of our data was recovered, not all of it. We do have backup systems in place. Unfortunately, some of the data was not set up on that backup systems for a variety of reasons. We've remedied what we're able to at this point in time. Do have to say a huge thank you to Lockett Technologies. They're the ones that have been taking care of us this whole time, and they stepped up to the plate, and on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and even a large part of today, they were here on site trying to get everybody back up and running. Also wanted to say thank you to our community members who tried to pay their water bill on Monday and may have had a little bit of a setback as a result of that because we weren't able to look up their bills at that time if they didn't bring in their pay stubs or their water bill stubs. So we appreciate their patience. We are back up and running now on that. Also appreciate staff's patience. I know several staff were able to get in fairly at a decent time on Monday. Some of us later on Monday before we could even log onto our computers and get going for the day. So, and appreciate the commission allowing us to have access to phones and iPads because that was able to be able to at least access email through that. So that worked out pretty well. We will be looking at quotes or proposals to be able to replace that server. In the meantime, Lockett has provided to us the use of a spare that we have, so we want to try to get this through fairly quickly. So next meeting we will ask for your approval of that server so we can get that spun up back quickly and get their spare back to them in case one of their other clientele need it. Anyone have any questions on that at all? Okay. We'll send you information as we have it so we can make an informed decision. Also, we have I guess I would also say thank you tonight for approving the replacement AC unit. In talking with Kirby, we believe that the higher humidity experienced here in the building may have contributed to the demise of that server. It was 6 years old, so it was a little bit beyond its normal lifespan, but we know that the high humidity in that area probably caused it to go ahead and fail. So I appreciate you voting to replace that tonight. We've also repaired the roof drain leak in the lobby, so thanks to our guys here that got it done. So it looks great and so far has functioned well. We're waiting until, again, the AC unit is back up and running to make sure that those two things together have addressed the problem of continued humidity in that area. We do have some issues with some extra moisture getting into the area. You'll notice some of the staining on the carpet. You'll notice some of the staining in the ceiling tiles. You'll notice a musty odor when you walk in there. We want to make sure that we've got that problem addressed before we come back, and at some point in time we will ask you for some cosmetic improvements to the lobby. That is our first impression as our patrons walk in here, especially new members of the community who come in to set up water service and the like. So that's all I had for you tonight. Do you have any questions for me?
So do we have the possibility of a mold problem with the humidity and the problems we've had with water and everything else?
Mold's a 4-letter word. We don't like to say
I
that.
know, that's why I'm asking the question.
Anytime you have warm temperatures and humidity, you always run the risk of mold. So we did find a little bit, but we believe that it was removed as a result of repair to the roof drain.
So we are checking that out.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. We would be remiss if we didn't.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Mark?
No, I don't have anything.
Chuck? Keaton?
No.
Christie? And I'm silent as well. We'll move on to staff comments. I like this. Then do I have a motion to move into executive session?
I move that the city commission recess into executive session for the preliminary discussion of acquisition of real estate, exception KSA 754319B6, with Amy Lang, Ron Koppel, Justin Farrell in attendance, and to reconvene in the city commission chamber at 6:35.
Second?
Any further discussion? I see we got Justin with just question marks. Does that mean we don't really want? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Also a cold can of Bud Light.
Okay, no action was taken. If there's nothing, no other discussion, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
So moved, done. Thank you, everybody.
We need to vote.
Oh, do I have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign? Aye. Motion carries.
Making sure Stacy doesn't get us